Hi, everybody. It is Stacey Calder from the Business Success Network and Magazine podcast. I am delighted that today I get to speak to another one of our BSN experts, Tony Edwards.
Hello.
Hello, you. It's been ages trying to get you on here, I do believe.
It has been a while. It's also the very first podcast I've done.
Is it really?
It is.
Wow, I'm ecstatic. And we were just talking backstage as well that there are other people that are trying to get you in before this one. So actually now the time frame you've just said we are the first, so they're going to have to wait now because you are our tech expert in the community, and not everybody, let's say, is as passionate about tech as you are. Some people like myself absolutely get petrified by it. Throw social media at me any day. Technology, I am a bit, and I don't want to stereotype girls or anything like that, but I do kind of, where's my IT support? I'd be lost without you, Tony.
Thanks. What's quite interesting is there is a growing, I don't want to say trend or fad, but there is women in technology is becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's not just in business development. Actually, girls and women out there doing the coding and the cloud migrations and all this other good stuff, which even 5 years ago wasn't really. It was there, but it was unfortunately they were a bit of an afterthought. Whereas now they're getting more main stage presence, which is great.
Well, I didn't think we were going to hit off with this subject straight away, but as I am passionate about women in business and throw in a hashtag of women in tech in there, let's just have let's have a chat about this quickly. So I used to, as you know, I do a lot of social media, and one of the companies I used to do social media for was a tech company, and they have a very strong, or had, because she's just sold it actually, had a very strong CEO in a lady that I was coaching, and she was all about, finding these the next generation of tech, getting women into technology, into STEM, and all those kinds of things. And I remember once I'd used the hashtag women in STEM, and someone quite rightly commented and said, why do we need why do we need these hashtags? Where's the hashtag men in STEM? Why can't we all just be, people in STEM? And her response and my response was, look, we would love there to be a time where actually things were so balanced and equal that you didn't need them, that we can just all be people in tech. And so I find it really brilliant that you've brought that up, actually, because I know there are kind of things out there are people that are trying to kind of bridge this gap between stereotypical men running around doing the sorting out the tech and women not, and it's been great to see. So what a great way to start.
Absolutely. I mean, what's quite interesting is that I had an inquiry last week for somebody wanting to come and do work experience with me. Now, I am a one-man IT business. I work from predominantly the corner of a room in my house, which also happens to be where I sleep. It was a 15-year-old girl, and having a 15-year-old girl in my bedroom working for me as an IT company was never going to happen in a million years, just from a safeguarding perspective. But it was great to get, a young, a teenager passionate about technology. The email was fantastic, and it was such a shame to have to say, sorry, I can't help you.
Can't do this at the moment.
Like you said about the whole men in STEM and all that. It's like it all, you've got all that other stuff that happened during the pandemic with the Black Lives Matter movement, and it's like there are just so many bigots out there. It's like, just get over yourselves. Until we're equal. This is what it is, and we just got to go over it.
Wow! And here's me thinking, as I go through these podcasts, something always crops up, and I think, right, that's the title right there. I genuinely had no idea we were going to talk about this stuff today. And for your first podcast, I love the fact that you're like, right, let's bring it. Let's just talk about, whatever. What other controversial stuff should we talk about, Tony? Forget the tech. My God. Anyway, we've kind of jumped ahead now, which is fantastic. So, as I said earlier, Tony Edwards is our expert within the technology industry. Now, you've not always worked in tech, have you, Tony? So why don't you share a bit about your background, as much or as little as you like? You can tell me to sod off if I'm being nosy, to be quite honest. But how, I want to know how you got into tech. Where does this passion come from?
So when I think back, when I was a kid, my dad is a carpenter by trade. My mum was a housewife. I don't have the hands. My hands are really, really small. I don't have the hands for working, for working with tools and that sort of thing. I am terrible at DIY. If you can look over that shoulder, that is, quite a good effort, but most of the drawers are a bit wonky. So working with my hands was never going to be something I was going to be any good at. When I was a kid, I really wanted to be a fireman.
I could totally picture that.
The fact that I can barely see, I'm not even 40, I can barely see. I had seriously bad asthma when I was a kid. And the fact that I hate heights kind of put me at a disadvantage,
It did a little bit, yeah.
So I then got introduced to computers. Must have been 10 or 11. We got our first computer, Amiga 500, cracking machine. Hey, we just played games on it, Lemmings, for hours and hours and hours.
There's going to be gamers, geeks, and nerds listening to this going, yeah, what a console.
And, my two younger brothers would play with the games, and I'd be like, seeing what it could do. I'd take it apart, put it back together, and not tell my mum and dad that I was doing it, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I have.
They won't listen to this, so it's fine.
I have these thoughts about my son, who he's currently he's 12. He's picking his options. He's very much into tech and gaming. And I did say to the teacher, "Is this the option where he gets to take stuff apart and put it back together again? Because I really don't want him doing it to my stuff at home." And they said yes. So,
but you say that when I was with you the other week, he now has a test laptop that he can essentially take apart and look at.
Yeah, because it's very good for anything else.
It doesn't work.
So this is kind of where Tony comes in here. He's brilliant at, and I know you'll probably talk about this later. You do power hours where you literally get people's laptops up and running faster than they ever have before. And to be fair, we did say that my son's laptop is pretty much done and dusted now. Do you know what? He's still using it. It's working faster. So Tony, you might have said it's ready for the knackers yard, but actually you've done something to it which has made it better. So whether that's magic Tony sprinkle fairy dust, or whether you're just you've took it apart and put it back together again, I don't know. But anyway, technology, where does this passion come from apart from this console, and how did you get into it?
I kind of fell into it. So in my options, I didn't pick IT at school. I picked something what I thought was going to be something different to it. It had IT in it, but it ended up being more like secretarial stuff, like letters and agendas and data protection and this, that, and the other. Some of it I still use now, 20 odd years later, which is great. It was when I went to college, and I did rather than going and doing A levels and that sort of thing. I went and did a GMBQ back then. Show my age now, won't I?
My age too. I would have known no different.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't want to go and learn maths and history and this sort of thing. I just want to go and do one subject and do one subject well. And that's what I did. Then I was like, university was an option. I got accepted. Decided I wasn't ready. So I went and worked for McDonald's for 10 years.
Wasn't ready. So, yeah.
Bit of a difference. Yeah. I went work from, cleaning the toilets up to teaching store managers how to run their stores.
And people, and I often hear people say, "Oh, McDonald's," and they question things like that. Listen, I come from a retail and a catering background, and actually, quick service restaurants like that, there are so many policies and procedures. There will be a policy and a procedure for you even having a break. For instance. So actually, to work your way up and have that, I know they've got great manager programs and things like that. Actually, the skills that you learn from there, and I know there'll be people going, "Don't believe you." I 100% agree. The skills that you can learn in an environment like McDonald's, especially on their leadership training, their franchise programs, stuff like that, it really can help you in business. There is stuff that I learned at Little Chef, for instance, that I still keep with me today in terms of leadership, team building, getting stuff done, really. So okay, so 10 years in McDonald's. When did you take the leap?
So when I left McDonald's, I'd just gone back to university, or I'd just gone to university doing business management and IT. Business management, because obviously being in McDonald's space, I worked my way up and I was learning more about P&L, cost of sale, all this good stuff. And I wanted to see if there was a way of learning more. And obviously McDonald's going to teach you so much.
Yeah.
And I still had that niggle for IT. If anything went wrong with the computer, I'd be the one that would fix it.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to university and got my degree. By the time I'd finished my degree, I was selling mobile phones for a living, and then moved on to a tile warehouse where I was IT and admin. And then my last role that I got made redundant from, where I was IT admin all the way up to head of department. And then COVID happened.
So you got made redundant just before COVID?
During? So I got furloughed on the 1st of April, 2020. And I was made redundant. I was told about it in August. So September, I was let go.
Wow.
But by September, I'd already set the business up and was kind of...
So you kind of knew that... Yeah, you'd kind of known that something was going on. You wanted a backup plan, so to speak. I've known you for quite a while now, definitely before COVID. And I know you were kind of in that place where, you wanted to be your own boss. You wanted to get out there and not be tied to, one specific company that had a say in everything you did. And I think that's true for so many business owners. And while we're talking about startups then, because I love throwing questions at you, when people start out in business, like you said, one-man band armed with a laptop and a drive and determination, IT is possibly, don't get me wrong, they'll build a website, they look at the kind of outward-facing stuff. IT and having the support there isn't necessarily one of the first things they think of. Why should it be? Or what should they be looking at? If they're just starting out, what do they really need?
Yeah, you're right. They don't look at IT as a necessary, I don't want to say expense, but that's kind of what it is. It is it is end of the day, it's not something that's going to necessarily lead you to a sale, so it's an expense. But it really should be, especially if you are one of those people that's a bit fearful of pressing the wrong button and it going bang. I hear stories from people.
I'm not that bad.
No. And I've got customers and had worked with people that are that sort of ilk. They press a button, it's like the computer's making a funny noise. And there has been one occasion when I've had that phone call, computer's making a funny noise. I'm like, okay, can you put the phone closer? They were just turning it on, and it was the laptop made a funny like a little. You know how Windows XP used to load up and it made that ding 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 noise. It was that sort of thing. You couldn't, I was about to say you couldn't. It's the sort of thing you'd see in the what was it, IT crowd?
IT crowd, yeah. Well, you have been known to call me names because of that program.
Yes, I know. We're not allowed to talk about that though anymore.
Okay, we're not talking about the fact that he used to call me Jen. And if you want to know why, speak to Tony.
It was all about an IT based networking meeting, wasn't it?
It was. It was.
You and Lawrence, and it just kind of made sense to play on the whole IT crowd thing to IT people when somebody that isn't necessarily as au fait as us.
No. Someone who's not as passionate as you guys. I am one of these people that would much rather refer people to you. And you mentioned Lawrence, our other IT expert there. Yes, when you two get together, there is no room for a Stacey Calder shaped person that doesn't know that much about tech. So there we go. Jen, eat your heart out. So yeah, they don't necessarily know what they want. And you, like you said, you spoke to people and they should have some sort of tech. So what is it then? Because obviously I know you've got to have kind of antivirus stuff and things like that. What is it? What is the bare essentials that they need for somebody starting out? They've got to have something. They've got to have some support.
So, if I was going to put down, say, my top 5 things that you'd need, you've got to have an email address that is professional. And by that, I mean...
Not a Gmail account.
Stacey.calder@gmail.com is not a professional email address. Just because you put your first name and your surname and a dot in the middle, that old @gmail.com does not make it professional at all. It needs to be your name at your company name. .com, .co.uk, .biz, .tech, whatever you want. Maybe not .xxx, but we're not going there either.
No,
so yeah, having a professional email address. You want to make sure that that email address is being backed up, because if that email address, if you have an issue with that email address, or you delete something and you need to get it back, depending on who the email provider is, it will depend. Will depend on how long that deleted item is really not deleted for. If you know what I mean, it go and sit in a recycle bin for a little bit of time. So, Microsoft 365, for example, it's got a 30-day recovery. After 30 days, if it's longer than that, unless you've got an additional backup, it's gone. That's one place where lots of people go wrong. They think that because they're on Microsoft 365 or Google Workspace, they've got backup. That's not necessarily the case.
So have a professional email. It's so true. I had someone sent me one today, and I thought, it's not I'm with you. It's not a professional, and people can spot it a mile off. It kind of almost makes you not want to take it seriously. Okay.
If you're a man with a van, fair, and that's what you want, fair enough. But if you're dealing especially B2B, it needs to look professional. Look, if you need to have a backup, passwords is a massive one for me. So many people forget their passwords or write them down on Post-it notes and that sort of thing. And
a password book. I've seen one of them.
Password books. The worst one I've seen, 70-year-old lady with a tablet. She'd take her tablet everywhere. She had her passwords on a laminated sheet with her tablet. 4 copies of the same laminated sheet with her tablet. So it wouldn't matter if she lost her tablet. She'd already given them 4 copies of their passwords. So that's the worst I've seen. Get a password manager. Whether that is LastPass or Dashlane or Bitwarden, which is a free open source one. If you want to be tight and don't want to pay for one, it remembers all your passwords for you. You've got to remember 2 passwords in theory after that. The one to get into your device and the one to get into your password manager.
There's a story about me in LastPass.
Yeah, I know.
I am that person that forgot that password. So yeah, I'm back in it now though.
4 again. I'm going to bang the security drum. Paul Newton's going to love this.
Yeah, and he is one of our next experts to come onto the podcast. So I'll just tell him you've already kind of warmed the seat up for him.
Multifactor authentication is a must, especially on your email, and if you use your social media channels for marketing your business, your socials as well. We know Dan Sadler. His Facebook got taken over and he couldn't get it back because they got into his account and then they put 2-factor authentication over the top of it so he couldn't get back in.
Yeah, and you see it all the time, don't you? With things like Apple IDs and all this kind of thing. It's so important.
It's all everybody's now pushing that way. Microsoft are taking it even further. They're looking at a way of removing the need for passwords completely.
Wow.
I'm not quite sure how that's going to work,
I can't even imagine how that would look, to be honest.
I'm quite interested to see how that's going to pan out. But so multi-factor authentication will be number 4, and number 5.
He's thinking about it. It's like a drum roll. I haven't got drums on my desk, so I can't drum roll. Hit us with a 10.
Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Oh, yes. Don't fish in the same pond.
So many people will be, Google Workspace for my email, because then I can use Google Meet for video calls, and then I can use Google Drive for storage, and this and that and the other. The problem is if Google goes down, you lose everything. It's the same with Microsoft. If you use Microsoft for your for 365 for your email, and you use SharePoint and OneDrive for your file storage and document management, and there's an issue with Microsoft and Microsoft goes down, again, you've got nothing, which is why having those backups is good, because you can go back and at least get things out and carry on working. Lots of people are moving their phone systems into Microsoft, linking their phone system with Microsoft Teams, or them choosing to use Microsoft for their phone system. And again, I'd be not necessarily against it from an integration perspective, but just having it all in one frightens the hell out of me, because if something goes wrong, again, that's everything.
Yeah, and we talk about this quite. I like this theme of don't fish in one pool, don't put all your eggs in one basket, because I talk about it a lot with social medias. You know, at the end of the day, they are not your platform. They are not. It's not your Facebook page. It's not your Facebook group. It's not your LinkedIn profile. And I've seen somebody in the last couple of weeks actually join Facebook for the first time. You know, for the first time, however many years later, because they've just had their LinkedIn gone, taken from under them, 90,000 followers gone. And so you can't put all your eggs in one basket. You've got to take it off these platforms. And you know, like you say, whether that's phones in one place, emails in another. I can't imagine. Well, you look at that Facebook outage not long ago.
Yeah.
Was I the only person sat there twiddling my thumbs thinking, shoot, what am I going to do? I'm going to have to...
I put my hands back like that. I was like, no notifications from Stacey for a couple of hours.
Such a charmer, isn't it? But you know what?
As well.
5 points are really good. And I have to say, and it was probably because I was working with an IT company at the time, that I did go and take out like a monthly IT package with them. And it's just really nice, you know, now, and I know I've got you now, Tony. So I can literally just ring you and go, help. I've never done that it's making a funny noise, but I have done that, you know, my emails aren't working properly, or what is going on, you know, it seems really slow, yet it's a new laptop, and you know, all these kinds of things.
I remember that story too.
I could write a book on the tribulations of Stacey and her tech, to be honest. But it is that thing of actually I could sit and, like you say, Google it or YouTube it or try and figure it out myself, or I can ring an expert and say, Tony, have you got 10 minutes, an hour, whatever you need here, do it. And that's the thing, isn't it? And with tech, like you said, it's not something that people necessarily want to pay out for, this support, right? Especially when they're starting out. But actually, it is a bit like an insurance policy, isn't it? Where nobody wants something until something goes wrong, and then again, like the RAC,
I was going to say, you know, it's like
you're not paying the monthly to pay for the monthly. You're paying it for that one day you get stuck at the side of the road. So.
Yeah, you know, when I speak to potential customers, I say, you know, you got the police, the fire service, the ambulance, the RAC, then you got me.
Oh, Tony is the 5th serviceman. There we go. Is that because you didn't want to do firefighting, so we've gone with number 5? There we go.
I never thought of that, but
I'll think of a marketing ploy for anything. Honestly, I will just stick Tony's face on a fireman with a computer and it'll be job done. Who knows? Oh, dear me. So we've talked about what people need starting out, things like that. What myths are out there at the moment? Because there are a lot of tech myths. Is there anything that you kind of think, oh, this is what I get asked a lot, and actually it's complete and utter rubbish? Notice I said rubbish and not something else.
Yeah. We're sticking with the whole Davina McCall no swearing policy, aren't we?
You are live.
Do you know what? There's this recurring myth going around that if you have an Apple product, you don't need an antivirus. If you've got a mobile phone or a tablet, you don't need an antivirus. And it is utter rubbish. You need an antivirus on every single device. You know, we spend so much more time on our mobile phone now than we did 10 years ago.
You're making me look uneasy again because you're about to ask me if I've got an antivirus on my phone, aren't you? And I haven't. I don't think.
I wasn't gonna ask you, but as you've
No,
outed yourself
the
live
answer.
on the
Right.
podcast, I need the answer. Yeah.
There you go. You see, I was one of those that may have been taken in by a myth that I didn't need it because I've got an iPhone. Who knew? Well, I know what I'm doing after this podcast, don't we? Tony's going to sort me out with antivirus for the phone. Who knew? See, and this is why it's great to listen to these podcasts, because I never know what we're going to talk about. We just have a conversation and see what comes out, and I love it because you've taught me something already today. So, antivirus on all things, all devices. That's the word I'm looking for. That's
there are paid ones out there on a mobile phone. A free one will be all right, as long as it's not certain ones which I can't name because they've got bad reputations and I'll get in trouble. But if you do want a free one, then I can recommend one. But to be honest, the paid for ones aren't expensive. You're looking £2 to £3 a month. You know, you walk into Starbucks or Costa, you're going to pay £3 to £4 for a blooming latte.
Yeah.
It's and you might do that 3-4 times a week. Take it down to 2 or 3 times a week, and you got enough money for your antivirus a month.
There you go. And some. There you go. You heard it here first. Get rid of one coffee. Other coffee houses are available if we mentioned any. And go and get your antivirus. So that was the myths then. What about, because I don't think you can talk about myths and what people need without talking about what's relevant. And tech is changing all the time, So someone listening to this in 6 months' time, there'll be something else to talk about. But right now, currently, I'm seeing you talk a lot about Microsoft and price increases. Is that right?
Yeah. So Microsoft announced, it was supposed to have gone live at the end of last year, but they moved it. But they announced their first worldwide price increase to its Microsoft 365 product line. And it not only affects the price, but also the way that their subscriptions work.
So anyone that's on like a pay monthly subscription, this is going to affect them, right?
Anybody that's on a pay monthly or an annual subscription, it will affect. The price increases are due to happen from the 1st of March, whether you buy that from a cloud service provider like myself and many, many others. Last time I was listening to another podcast last week. I think there are over 70,000 IT/managed service providers in the UK. So you can either come to me or the other 69,999.
Go to Tony. It's okay. You can sales pitch it.
Or you can go to Microsoft Direct. The price increases are going to be there regardless.
Right.
However, the monthly ones are going to be higher than the annual increase. So an annual increase is going to go up 20%.
Right. Wow.
From the 1st of March, unless you lock it in before the 1st of March for a year. You can save yourself a few quid by locking it in before the 1st of March. After the 1st of March, it goes up 20%. And then for pay monthly people, it's going to go up potentially up to 40%.
Wow.
Because it's the normal top, the 20% increase, plus because it's a month by month, for that flex, you have to they want you to pay for the privilege. To be fair, this is their first price increase in almost a decade. So they have been, it has been really, really good value. So much so I just moved from Google over to Microsoft over the weekend. I've been trying to do it for 2 years. I've only just got round to it.
But when I hear you speak and when you talk about things at networking events, you're not a kind of a one company person, are you? It's not that you're not tied in to speak about one thing. And you quite often say, you could be Apple or you could be Microsoft or you could, there is no, you never give a real preference here. So I really like that because you're always quite solid in the information. You'll say, well, they're good for this, but these are good for this. And so if people come and speak to you, you are genuinely giving them your best information. you're not being, they're not going to be sold an apple just because it's an apple or whatever. Because
no, absolutely. And that, I think that comes from my previous job, where I was essentially head of department for a procurement company. It was never about necessarily the cheapest price. It was always about the right solution. And what works for me isn't necessarily going to be the same as what works for you or for Paul, who we've mentioned, or for Lawrence. Lawrence could potentially sell a completely different set of services to me, even though we both do
IT.
On paper, the same thing.
It's so broad, isn't it? There is so much out there in terms of IT. It's such a big subject. I could get 3 IT experts on in a row, and we'd all talk about different things. We would. That's just the way it is. I'm not going to get 3 IT experts in a row, just for anyone that doesn't like tech. Not going to put that one out there. So we've been chatting for 30 minutes, Mr. Edwards, and I always end with, and I especially have this series, what does business success look like to you? Because I ask this question to everyone and it's always different. So what's it mean to you?
Being at home, having time with my family. I've spent, it's weird, I look back, I've been working for 22 years full time. If I think about when I actually started work at the age of 12, I've been working most of my life. And it's not just 30 hours. When I was at McDonald's, I was probably doing 60, 70, 80 hours some weeks. Then when I was at university and selling mobile phones, I was doing a 40-hour working week and a 30-hour university week. And it's now that I'm at this stage in my life, my career, that it's like, I want to spend some time with my wife. I want to spend some time with my kids. I've got
Do they want you to spend some time with them?
The 17-year-old probably not, other than helping her learn to drive. But I love my family and my kids and my wife, and it's like being able to spend a bit of time with them as and when I want, not just when I get home at night. Is that's success to me. It's not about money. I mean, obviously it is. As long as I can pay the bills, I'm happy. But yes, that's what success. For me, success it isn't about. It's not having a Lamborghini on the driveway. It's about it can be a blooming Vauxhall Astra or a Ford KA for all I care. For having time with my family and that freedom that only working for yourself brings.
Oh, and I think we're going to end it on that note, because that is fantastic. Tony, where can people find you if they want to find out more other than the Business Success Network Facebook group?
So they can find me all over socials. I believe I don't even know what my socials are, which is really, really good, isn't it? Because unfortunately, I couldn't get them all to be the same. Damn you, Facebook. But yeah, I mean, you can find me all over socials. You can find me at my website, www.bit, the letter B, IT, smart.tech. And
that will have all your social links on it.
That's got all the social links on it and everything, yeah.
You can tell how prepped and ready you was for this. It's been an absolute pleasure, Tony. You are one of my favorite people. We've given you the name Top Gun Tony for a reason. I'll let people work that one out. Another networking joy.
I haven't got the Top Gun mug.
You haven't got the Top Gun mug with you. See, we even got him a Top Gun mug. Good old Helen Donnelly there gets a shout out last minute.
Brilliant birthday present that was.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. As I said, if anybody has any IT issues, please do go and search out Tony, because he is not only very, very clued up, but he's genuinely a lovely all-round good guy as well. So thank you for letting me interview you today, Tony.
No, thanks, Stacey. It's been brilliant, and it's always a pleasure to speak to you.
And
as you know.
Right. See you very soon.
Bye.